Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, libertarians out of nowhere. Also, there could be strikes at Alabama prisons. And the end is near of campaign season.
Strut your stuff and really show it.
Hallelujah, it's almost over. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and today I'm joined by Susan Britt, research guru extraordinaire, and Josh Moon, investigative reporter and columnist at APR. Welcome back, Josh.
Yeah, man, so weird. It's a weird place you got here.
Yeah.
Vague memories.
Yeah, no, right. I seem to recall being here, but it's pre-COVID, so who knows?
It's been a while.
Yeah, who knows if it's even real or not?
No, you
could
don't
be
know.
dreaming.
Right? And we don't know if COVID's real either.
Oh, no, it's all fake news.
Yeah, well, of course it was.
Yeah.
You know, and some people will dismiss this because it's a report from the ACLU, but they do good work. Don't dismiss them because you don't agree with them.
Right.
Numbers are numbers.
Numbers
I'm sorry.
are numbers. They did a report where they looked at last session, and they found that out of some over 800 bills, 17% of them, Josh, made it easier to arrest, convict, and sentence individuals in the state. 17%, or almost 200 bills, to help police and prosecutors put more people in jail.
Yeah, well, we have, I don't know if you know this, but we have a problem with undercarceration in our state. So we really need to fill these prison beds up. But no, I don't understand. We're so far progressed in our knowledge in all shapes and forms now. But this one area continues to be this drag on society where it's still viewed as the tougher you are, in terms of locking people up and just throwing away the key, that seems that they still believe that deters crime in some way. And there's never been proof of that in any way, shape, or form. And in fact, when we look at other countries and we look at other states even, we see that if you don't do that, that you have a much better chance of rehabilitating those people and having a safer society.
Yeah, I mean, they're not taking into account a lot of the crimes that go on are a result of mental illness. They're a result of something else. It's not a matter, look at the drug court in St. Clair County, where it's a diversionary program. Instead of sending them to prison, they put them through drug court. The success rate of that is astronomical. They need to start looking at alternatives, that community service, community outreach, and instead of just locking people up and throwing away the key. It makes no sense.
Well, I know, and I wrote about this a few weeks ago. Minnesota Judge Dennis Shalene, who passed away back in 2018, he's credited as being the father of community service. In 1972, he started sentencing people to community service rather than lock them up. And we know here in Alabama that the community corrections does work.
Right.
It does.
You see that in St. Clair County and other counties. Look, do we have to have a community corrections in Wilcox County? No.
Yeah.
No. But you ought to have one in every circuit. 41 circuits. We should have something for everybody there. But it is back to what you're saying, Josh, being smart on crime. But I wanted to look at, Susan, maybe you can help us with this. One of the things that Judge Shalene, he categorized people as norps, slicks, or slugs, people who committed crimes. And I was, after I wrote that, I got a call from several judges who said, we've known this for years, we just didn't know where it came from.
Well, not every criminal is the same. Not every person that's entering a courtroom is the same personality type, same crime or whatever. So Shalene defined it as NORPs are normal, ordinary, responsible people who've done something out of character and could be expected to change their ways no matter what the sentence they receive, whether it's prison time, fine, or community service. Slicks were perpetrators, were perpetual victimizers who consider themselves far smarter than everyone around them. They would never reform, so they needed to be locked up for as long as possible. Now, slugs.
So Alabama legislators.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Slugs are the weak people who could go either way, but inevitably went bad if sentenced to live around bad people. So you've got it in that instance, you've got a person that's already weak in personality that already doesn't have self-confidence. And what they're going to do when you put them in a good environment or a bad environment, they're going to adapt to that to fit in. So if you put them in prison, guess what you're going to let out a few years from now?
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, and that's the thing that I think, Josh, people fail to understand is that we put them in jail, and some of them, like the Norps, they don't have any business being in jail.
Right.
It's just going to make them worse.
They just messed up.
They just messed up. But we put them in jail not realizing they're coming out.
Yeah.
They're coming out.
Yeah.
You're not going to keep them there forever.
Yeah, unless they've murded somebody, they're going to come out at some point. And even in the case of murder, sometimes they're still going to come out. But we've got to figure out a way. If you're going to call it the corrections system, at some point you've got to correct things. You've got to. Your goal should be correcting the behavior because. Look, let's be honest. We all know that for the overwhelming majority of these people, they were not born bad people. All right, that's not what happens. I mean, come on, and we can talk about this rationally, I think, and say we have to correct whatever occurred with these people that sent them down this pathway. Some people we're not going to be able to help them.
No.
All right, you're not, and I understand that they're going to continue to demonstrate this behavior, but at the same time, the overwhelming majority are, and you can't throw away the overwhelming majority because you're scared of this tiny minority over here, and that's what we're doing right now.
Well, we're not looking at it from a public safety issue. We're looking at it from a crime and punishment.
Yeah, punishment. That's what we're worried about. Is punishment.
We're not looking at rehabilitation or constructive ways of helping these people, whether it's through mental health, whether it's through some sort of rehabilitation program, whether it's through them learning new skills that they can use after they get out of prison so they don't reoffend. These are the things that should be important, and not just all of this because it has to do with, charging up the base. Yeah. Lock them up and throw in the heat.
I know there's a movement out there to increase the penalties for fentanyl. Well, okay, fine. The war on drugs is the most unsuccessful war that America has ever tried to win. We lost the war on drugs
it's over,
a long time ago. So by increasing the sentence for it, a person taking fentanyl is going, oh boy, they're going to put me in jail longer.
Why would you extend the sentence for the user and not find the dealer? There's where your problem is.
But even still, I mean, if you don't understand at this point addiction, and everybody by now should have dealt with it within their families.
Yes.
Right.
So where you understand what addiction does to people.
Yeah, it does. And every family in America, I would say, has had to deal with that in some form or the other. But we're going to have to leave it right there. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
Speed is one of the biggest factors in a fatal car crash. Your car stops, but your body does not stop at the same time. Your body keeps going, and that could be running into your seatbelt, that could be hitting the airbag. Something has to stop it, and unfortunately, it's something very hard.
There have been times that we've come upon accidents where if people weren't speeding, they'd probably still be alive today.
It's truly dangerous, and it puts everybody at risk.
There's just no point to it.
This kind of stuff has got to stop.
I'm Donald Trump, and I love Alabama. As many of you know, there are few issues facing our nation as important as election integrity and election fraud. This is why the people of the great state of Alabama must work together to make it easier to vote and harder to cheat. So get out, register to vote, and get a photo ID so you can make your voice heard and decide the future of our great country. Thank you.
My dog Jupiter is frightened when I climb too high, the owl said.
Check for monsters, Daddy.
I did, honey. There are no monsters. You're perfectly safe.
Protect yourself and those you love. Vaccinate now.
Welcome back to the V, the voice of Alabama politics. I hate too much to stay on this incarceration thing, but John Henry Glenn, who works for APR, he is in touch with incarcerated folks on a daily basis. He talks to a lot of them inside the prisons. He also talks to guards or correctional officers and stuff. And Josh, what's disturbing is there is a movement afoot, and it may happen this coming week, where there is going to be a workers' strike at several prisons, but especially up in St. Clair County, we're hearing this is a credible rumor.
Yeah, and honestly, it's kind of surprising to me that it has taken so long for this to occur because, I understand that these are people who have been locked up because they've committed crimes, all right? But it is also wrong, and some would argue criminal, to do what our Board of Pardons and Paroles has been doing, which is essentially keeping people locked up who we know would function just fine outside of prison because we're letting them outside of prison to go do work.
Yeah.
And we're essentially forcing people into slave labor by ignoring our rules that we have for letting people out of prison. And that's what they're doing. I mean, this is not me being a flaming liberal sort of a person. Go and read the rules. And there are a number of people who work for paroles right now who are very mad about the way that board has behaved. And so the fact that there's going to be an uprising among the prisoners, listen, let me tell you, and if you think you take that lightly, we get a lot of work done by those guys.
I mean, and that's the thing, Susan, we've done away with the chain gang, so to speak, but we've done a more sophisticated way of doing this. But our Pardons and Parole Board is terrible. And Cam Ward is a conservative guy who runs Pardons and Parole, but he has nothing to do with the board.
Right.
And I hear from Republicans, I hear from Democrats, I hear from middle-of-the-road folks going, that is a shame over there. But you can't get rid of them because they're so politically connected over there, especially to Steve Marshall.
But, you're right about that. We've been to the St. Clair facility, and I'm telling you, that will be a big deal in that facility if this strike indeed does happen.
Well, one of the things they want reinstated is the good time incentive, so they can be eligible to get out faster.
Yeah.
The other thing that they want is to end life without parole. I don't see that necessarily happening.
I don't either.
But a repeal of the 1979 Habitual Offenders Act, that is one of the dumbest things we have on the book.
Yep, always has been. And let me tell you, I don't know that you could find many judges that would agree with that law.
Yeah.
They hate it. They hate that they have to sentence people to that habitual offender punishment, that they don't have discretion to alter things from time to time on certain people that come before them. It's a terrible law, and it has packed our prisons with people who have no business being in prison for that amount of time.
I mean, this thing started with Nelson Rockefeller up in New York State, where the 3 strikes, you're out.
Right.
It didn't matter what you did.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got people in prison that are under the habitual offender law that they did nothing that would be considered violent.
Most people don't realize that if you write a check for over $3,000 and it bounces, that's a felony.
Yeah.
You do that 3 times and you fall under this act.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you'll be lying on your taxes and
That's right.
But I'm saying it's not
overvaluating your real estate and everything.
It's not just stealing cars or murder or whatever. It's there's the small things too.
Yeah.
One size does not fit all in these situations. We were talking about off camera.
If the prisoners just think about it in their mind and want to decriminalize that law. Would that work for them like it does for former presidents?
I'm thinking.
Or is that just for declassification? I'm not sure.
Rough.
Yeah.
Rough.
And they want to get paid if they're going to have to work.
Well, yeah. How about that?
I'm sorry, but
on.
when I was growing up, if you didn't work, you didn't get fed, and if you didn't get fed, it's because you didn't work.
Yeah,
Whoops.
well, there you go.
Sorry.
If you're working, you should get paid.
Yeah,
if you're
absolutely
not working,
you should.
I don't know. Hey, I want to switch over to doom and gloom. Just lock me up right now. But it's rough. I mean, it needs to be done, and that's why we're addressing it. But Governor Kay Ivey's back on the road again. She and Willie Nelson on the road again, and she's been all over the state, starting to back out there.
She even went to Tal, Alabama.
She went to
the Bankston motorhome.
Yes, she went to
recreational vehicles.
She'd spoken at Kiwanis clubs and everything else, and one of the things is she's touting the initiative so that high school graduates will graduate school with at least a college course or two. And I mean, my problem is that we can't get them all to graduate without being able to read. But it sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I also saw that she was up pitching the electric vehicles and talking about how well positioned the state is for that. And it's nice to see her back out. I was considerably worried about her. You know, I mean, we're not friends or anything, but I mean, it's still, I don't want anything bad to happen to her, and I'm glad to see her back out and moving around.
She is the governor.
Yeah.
And that EV summit that they had was a very big deal.
Yeah.
It was a very big deal.
You know, the fact that Alabama is positioned to be a leader in the field of electric vehicles.
Well, we got all the car manufacturing plants here, and all of those folks, they see the future, you know, of this. And you can hate it or whatever, or think that it's wrong or it's liberal or whatever. You don't have to buy one, but we all see where it's going. I mean, this is where you're headed. And I'll say this: have you ever known anybody who bought an electric car that was just like, oh my God, I hate it? You know, I mean, everybody's like, no, it's
one of my
really
best friends
convenient.
has one right now, and she loves it.
Yeah. Well,
she goes 6 weeks without filling up her car.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I just, I have not driven one. I've seen them. I need to go out and drive one and see what it's like.
Yeah.
But it's coming to Alabama, and we need to tout the industry and get something going there.
Well, listen, if somebody would like to give me one to drive around, I'd be happy to do it.
Wouldn't it be nice if we could get we
get a fleet.
But I don't think we can endorse, right? Can we endorse?
We can do anything we want to.
Oh,
we're not in office. Send it all.
That's like those people on radio. They're always, and our segment's brought to you by coffee, and it's the best coffee in the world.
Yeah, we love it. Send it on over. I'll drive it around.
Well, I think inevitably that's where it's going to be.
Yeah.
We're going to have them. Yeah. All right. You've been watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. I promise we won't talk about prisons in the next segment.
Throughout my career, I've seen many crashes, and a lot of the fatalities are from people who haven't worn their seatbelt.
Cars have rolled over multiple times.
I've had people end up in lakes, ravines. I've been looking for people in the woods for a couple hours before.
Usually just about every bone in their body is broken, their organs have ruptured, and typically they die.
You want to save a life, just simply click a button and put that seatbelt on.
Seatbelts really do save lives.
There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children, she didn't know what to do. She gave them some broth without any bread and kissed them all soundly.
Lights out.
And put them to bed. Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org.
My personal biggest pet peeve is kids who are not properly restrained, whether that be in a booster seat, a car seat, or even a simple seatbelt. Kids, they become projectiles, and it's terrifying.
It absolutely breaks my heart to know that something so innocent could be punished so severely.
Your children rely on you to be that person that says, no, you need to put your seatbelt on.
Welcome back to the V, the voice of Alabama politics. I'm going to walk out on a pretty sturdy limb here and say that Governor Kay Ivey will be reelected.
What?
Will Ainsworth will be elected, reelected. Senate President Pro Tem Greg Reed will be elected. So that's your main leadership. And then we're going to go and say either Steve Klaus, Representative Steve Klaus, or Nathaniel Ledbetter will be Speaker of the House.
You want to see a Democratic takeover?
I did want to see that.
Not in this lifetime.
Libertarians are scared.
Now that's a whole other subject. We'll get to that later.
We'll get to that in a second. But, you know, it's interesting to me that we know these people are going to win, and it's because of the way the state has been positioned. But I would also argue that they've done a good job.
They have.
They've done a good job.
Very good job.
Hasn't made people.
I could argue against that.
You can argue against
it. I can argue against it.
I didn't say you could argue. I said I could.
I could. I would.
I could.
I like
you would.
ham sandwiches.
And I would say they've not done the job that everybody wants them to do.
Okay.
But they're
fair.
going to be reelected.
That's fair.
They're going to be reelected. But we have one party system here.
Yes, we do.
And that one party system is broken because now you have the extreme of the Republican Party wanting to take on the more reasonable business establishment Republicans. And so you're going to see a clash, not of titans, but of folks that want to move the state forward and people who just want to continue to fight these crazy wars.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to get from one party now.
Yeah, you're seeing that already, and it's disappointing, I think, and what inevitable. I mean, we had talked about this for years now. This was coming down the pike somewhere because you could see it coming. The more you gerrymander and the more you isolate out this other party and those ideas, well, the only people left then to fight for those offices are people in that same party. And the only way to attract these people is to keep pushing right, to keep pushing right, keep pushing this way. And so that's what they've done. And now you're to the point where they're having a real problem fighting off some of these ridiculous ideas and the less serious people. I mean, the Mo Brooks and the Jim Zieglers and these are not people. I mean, come on. You wouldn't trust them to water the plants at your house.
No, you wouldn't.
Why?
Because
you don't want them to run your government.
No.
And that's the thing I see. You have people that truly want to govern, that are reasonable and want to govern. And then you have the other people that just want to scream and yell and complain about, I call it outrage and being outrageous.
Yeah.
That's what they want to do.
Well, there's the people who, like you said, want to govern that actually want to work on policy and things that are beneficial to the state and moving the. And then those that really don't have any original ideas that are over here screaming all the time. The problem is the ones that are screaming are the ones that are getting heard more than those that actually want to
because
govern.
we've set up a system now. And listen, I'll be honest, I sometimes struggle with this in the media as well. And I'm not being critical because I guess I'm being critical, but I'm also criticizing myself in doing it. Because we pay attention a lot of times to these people who have the ridiculous ideas more so. Because you want what? How in the world could you say this? And that then draws attention to it, and it almost normalizes it to a degree, I think. And so those people just kind of get more attention than the guy who's just saying rational, sane things that are happening every day.
Well, I think the recent school board election in Huntsville was a perfect example. You had this woman who sounded like Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah.
She really did. Or Lorena Bobbitt or whatever that other one is.
Lauren Bowbrey
or whatever. But Lorena Bobbitt saying
the high school dropout. Yes.
Anyway, and this other woman ran against her and said, look, we're not worried about critical race theory. We're not worried about indoctrination. We're teaching our children. We need to help teachers to teach the children. Well, the woman who was the Lorena Bobbitt type, she got murdered. The other woman won. So at least you see in parts of the state, these folks aren't winning. Yeah. They're losing.
Yeah, and that's helpful. I think we saw that in the last election too. That some of the crazier people got beat. Yeah. And so it is. It is very helpful for everybody to be reminded that these fringe ideas are indeed fringe. Yeah. And so while there are a lot of loud people screaming about them, And, you know, maybe we're not electing them quite as often as we could.
You brought up critical race theory. Critical race theory is an elective in higher education in college. It has nothing to do with K through 12.
No,
nothing.
it doesn't.
But if they scream loud enough for the CRT, finally, I think people may be settling down and listening to what reasonable people are saying. At least, God, I hope
Well,
so.
it's sort of like, you know, this divisive concept they're going to bring back. It's school.
Yeah.
It's school. We just teach the history like it happened.
Hey, you know, it would be nice. It would be nice if there were some organization out there that would organize the teachers and get them fired up about what is going on with these people who are attacking them constantly, you know, harming their retirement plans, or, you know, going after them left and right about indoctrinating children and being sex offenders and all this nonsense that they've had to take on over the course of the last couple of years.
If only.
Yeah. It's the largest voting bloc in the state, okay? Get together and stop this nonsense.
If they only had a place where they could all join and do that.
Right.
Yeah, and you can pay for it, you know, every week. And
I don't know.
Maybe, you know, hire a lobbyist. And
Hey, I just want to get this one last, you know, one thing about, I was going to talk about the problem with perpetual campaigning, but I want to get to this, and the libertarians have come out of nowhere.
Yeah, man, they're all over the place.
What everybody's saying. They're out of nowhere. Where did they come from?
Yeah, it's just like all of a sudden you looked up and there were 60 people on the ballot. And I mean, there are not even that many Democrats on the ballot. I mean, it's just like, what in the world?
And it's, I mean, I've been talking to people this last couple of weeks. I know you have, and you have too.
Yeah.
They go, where'd they come from?
Yeah, all of a sudden.
Where did it start?
Yeah,
I mean, that was like sort of they were hibernating in the ground.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they just popped up.
It was like cicadas every 15 years. You know, boom.
Yeah, you kind of get the feeling that a lot of people are tired of like the status quo, but they don't want to vote for a Democrat.
Right.
And so you can say, well, I'm a libertarian, you know, and it's okay, we'll do that.
I think a lot of people they're tired of the far right screaming.
Yeah.
They're tired of the far left screaming. And they want something balanced somewhere in between those two ideals. And there is nothing unless you just create your own.
I'm not sure most of those libertarians are balanced, but I think that it's...
Well, I'm talking ideals.
As you said the other day, if you want to smoke weed, not pay taxes, you're pretty good.
That's right. Yeah. Do all the illegal drugs you want and never pay any taxes. That's a platform we can get behind.
All right, you've been watching the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them.